All right, hello STEM Academy. We're here to give you a quick explanation as to what we're doing for our class project intro activity for this year. I'm joined by the lovely Miss Dorn and Miss Simpson, so that's fantastic. We've got a bunch of our STEM science teachers here to run you through what's going to happen. So to start off, you're going to be moving to begin with here with this document that you see, and everything that we do from here is going to be linked on this document for y'all to access as well. We're going to start right here with the quick explanation of what the generate game is from the EPA, and then end up using the templates and stuff linked later as well. So we'll jump through all this, but I want to make sure y'all know this is kind of the home base for this activity. So to jump over to this generate the game intro, Miss Simpson is actually our resident pro on how this game works. So I'm going to let her explain a couple of these items right here so that you know how they work.
Hello, everybody. In the Generate game, everybody is going to be given basically a game board with a grid. And your goal is to fill up this grid with different energy sources and resources. And this is because your country needs to meet its energy needs, which are the same size as this grid. And we're going to be using different pieces to represent different energy sources. So you can see some of these resources here. Now, different countries have different resources, so you may not have all of these resources on your game board. Now, there's a couple things I want to point out about these pieces because we do want to consider the financial cost of these resources as well as the impact on CO2 emissions. Different pieces are different sizes, and that relates to basically how much energy each resource can produce. Some are going to be larger, some are going to be smaller. In the top right corner, you'll see the purchase cost is in red. This is a one-time purchase cost that you must pay for each piece. Down below on the bottom right, there's the annual cost, and this is how much it costs to run this resource or use it every year. And finally, in the bottom left, you'll see there is a CO2 emissions. We are going to multiply the CO2 emission by a factor of 5. And again, this is annually. So we'll see, we want to know how much is each resource going to cost over a 30-year period. So to do so, you want to take your initial purchase cost as well as your annual cost multiplied by 30 for the 30 years, and then your CO2 emissions, again, multiplied by 30, as well as our CO2 factor. Now, you do not need to calculate this. We're going to have a spreadsheet that calculates it all for you.
Yeah, we're excited about that as the people who are about to be playing this game. So, all right, awesome. Well, thank you, Miss Simpson. That's perfect. We're actually going to jump over. Miss Dorn and I started to fill a card in here. So we wanted to make this an example so you can kind of see what's going on. So I guess, Miss Dorn, what should we move next? Which piece looks best to move next here?
I feel like we should add another big solar power.
Awesome. So we've got our big solar powers here. There was the smaller ones. We put a couple of those. So let's go ahead and put maybe this on. And Miss Simpson, as we're doing this, if you have any suggestions as to how maybe we've done this well or messed this up, please let us know.
Definitely. So one thing I notice is that for your coal, you're given a couple different options for coal. They're all the same size, so they produce the same amount of energy. You guys chose to do a traditional coal power plant. However, you also have an existing coal power plant. It has the same upkeep cost and carbon cost, but many areas already have coal plants. So with an existing coal plant, you do not have to pay the initial startup cost.
Oh, Miss Dorn, we messed up. We spent too much money on a new coal plant.
We did. Can we switch them?
Should we make that there? All right, I can do this, right? I'm good?
Not quite. So you want to make sure that none of your pieces are overlapping. And you also want to make sure that none of them are hanging off the edge. So yeah, I think that's a better choice to switch them out.
Yeah.
Are those solar panels hanging off the edge too?
Yeah, you may need to slide them. Again, playing with everything online, it's a little bit trickier. So do your best.
And so we kind of quickly through, Miss Dorn, we need to pay closer attention, I think. I know, right? And it's my fault. I'm the one manipulating this. But
yeah, you're in charge of the mouse here, Mr. Berry.
Dang it. All right. So now that we've got this, we would fill the rest of this board in, right? Ms. Simpson, what do we do from here?
So now you want to make sure, again, that all of your space on your grid is filled out. So keep filling that out. May need to play around with some pieces, use some smaller pieces in certain places. And again, do your best to make sure everything aligns with the grid.
Yeah, and
as you're doing that, Mr. Sorry. As you're doing that, I also want to point out the other coal plant. I know we talked about the existing, which is a coal CSS plant. So this plant, again, uses coal, but it has carbon capture technology. So it costs more to build upfront, but you'll see that it's going to produce much less carbon dioxide. So another thing just to consider as you're working.
Got it. All right, cool. All right, so we would probably want some of these as opposed to that also, right?
Probably, I'd say.
Cool. Okay, so let's say we finished all this, we filled it in. We didn't do that perfectly, so Ms. Dorn and I aren't going to get perfect hundreds on this. But how would I do like my tally and my scores and stuff? What do I do next here?
Okay, so now what you want to do is you want to count up the number of each type of resource you're used. And so that includes, you want to count your different coal plants separately. Also keep in mind large versus smaller, solar and wind. And once you have jotted down those numbers, you may want to have a sheet of scratch paper if it's easier than flipping back and forth between tabs. You then are going to go to our score sheet, or scorecard. And what you'll do here is you will enter the number of each resource that you have. So coal existing.
Oh, I cheated. I think we had 2 on 1, right? Let's do that as an example for him here. Okay. And now, and so it shows me a lot of these numbers. Like you said, we don't have to actually do the math, huh?
Exactly. So it'll see, it calculates everything for you. And you'll see your cost, CO2 cost, as well as the total cost. And each group, you're each going to be doing your own scorecard. And you can see once every group or every person enters their information, it'll actually rank you and see which has the lowest cost, who has the highest cost. And that's a great jumping off point to talk about kind of why we would want to choose some resources over others.
Fantastic. I love it. And that's when, I'll grill them with questions at the end here. But
Exactly.
Awesome. So I had one more quick question for you as we're doing this. Like I'm counting all this up, I'm putting all those numbers in. To fill in the rest of this at the bottom, can I just kind of do this? Is that okay?
Nope. You cannot change your dimensions of these pieces. So on those small gaps, you want to make sure you use the smaller wind or smaller solar pieces. So do not change your sizes. We have the sizes as reference. And if you've got one resource filling your whole grid, we're going to get a little suspicious of that.
It looks like there's also a check for that on the scorecard because it will tell you, it calculates how many squares were not covered by your resources if you look there. So.
Dang it, they both caught me. All right, well, awesome. I think that gives us a quick intro as to how to play the game. Ms. Simpson, Ms. Doran, thank you so much for helping us out with this.
Have fun, y'all.